Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to our event as part of Alumni Weekend, co-sponsored by the Admissions Office and the School of Natural and Social Sciences, which is Natural and Social Sciences at Purchase, past, present, and future. So the reason we've called it past, present, and future is precisely because this event being co-hosted by these three different entities within Purchase College embrace those of you who have attended Purchase at some point in your lives, either very recently or perhaps decades ago, as well as current students and students that we hope are about to join us in the next few months. It's a rare opportunity to have these three groups together in the same space. And so we're really excited by this possibility. In some ways, this convergence of the past, present, and future of natural and social sciences at Purchase is kind of made possible by the unfortunate circumstances we're in where we have to do this virtually. Normally, in years past, what we've had is the Natural and Social Sciences School has an annual symposium featuring student research projects. That event typically takes place during Alumni Weekend. So we're able to invite our interested alumni to attend the presentations that our current seniors are making. This year, and on that occasion, we rarely, if ever, have prospective students on campus. It takes place physically in our buildings, and rarely are we able to invite any prospective students, certainly not more than a few. This year, the Natural and Social Sciences Symposium is going to be taking place in a dual kind of hybrid format, all virtual, partly by posting videos that people will be able to access asynchronously. So to watch those videos of student presentations on their own time. And we'll also in one week from tonight, be having an event that we sort of kick off, like an opening, if you will, of our online video presentations. And we're inviting everybody who's here tonight to attend that live event of the Natural and Social Sciences Symposium a week from tonight. And a link will go out by email for that later on. So, so given that event is taking place next week, which is after Alumni Weekend is going to have taken place, this year we decided, working with the Alumni Weekend planners, to put together this sneak peek, which gives you a kind of a taste of the presentations that are going to be posted online and that we'll be celebrating at our live event next week. We have three students representing actually four different majors, because one of our students here tonight is a double major, representing some of the range of majors that we have in the School of Natural and Social Sciences, who will give you very brief kind of overviews of this research that they've done over the past year as seniors in their respective majors. This will provide everybody here, the alumni, current students, faculty, staff, and prospective students who've been accepted into Purchase, the opportunity to kind of see what it is that we in the Natural and Social Sciences do. These are students that we're especially proud of. They volunteered to present tonight, which is earlier than they would have had to present their work, which means they've had to be kind of some of the go-getters in our programs. We're proud of all our students. The students who are here tonight have kind of gone the extra mile by preparing some of their work early and also preparing their little brief overviews tonight so that you can get a kind of taste of the work that they're doing. After these introductory remarks of mine, I'm going to turn the floor over to those students one at a time. And then after those presentations, which should last no more than 5 minutes each, we'll be able to answer questions that you might have about their particular research projects or about the programs that they represent and even other departments. So the students here represent 4 departments, as I said, and I'll introduce them in a second. But we have 10 majors in the School of Natural, actually 11 majors in the School of Natural and Social Sciences. As incorporating, as the name implies, the natural sciences, which for us means biology, biochemistry, chemistry, environmental studies, math and computer science, and psychology. And tonight we have one student, Darlis Juvino from the psychology department. And we also have James Finnerty, who is a major in math and computer science. James is also a double major in the economics program, which is one of the social sciences. The social sciences at Purchase are comprised of anthropology, economics, James's program, political science, sociology, and gender studies. So as I said, James represents both economics and math and computer science. And we also have Maxwell Levitt, who is a student in the political science program. We're also pleased tonight to have Maxwell Levitt's supervisor in the political science program, Sam Galloway, who is a professor of political science, also happens to be an alumnus of Purchase. And another alum is Darlis Juvino, who's the representative of our psychology program, who is here as a senior. She actually graduated in December, so she's one of the newest alums that we have at Purchase. I'm really very proud to have all of you here tonight to represent our school. So I'm going to now turn the floor over. I think James is the first speaker that we're going to have. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Right. So I'm going to turn the floor over to James to let us, so that he can share the work that he's been doing. I also want to give a shout out to my colleague, Amanda Zalo, who is the office manager for Natural and Social Sciences, who's done a lot of the organizational work to get us all here tonight. And she's been working very closely with Stacy Leitner, who is one of the planners of this, as well as the Jess Soisson Prado. So I thank you all for the help you've done putting this together, as well as the people from the admissions department. It's a lot of different hands coming in to make this show possible. And with that, I'll turn the floor over to you, James.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. What I'm here to present today is a quick look at the concepts and results of my thesis, Humanizing COVID-19 Data Through Visual Analysis in Unity. Here we have the latest accessible census data, New York's population in 2019, just shy of 19.5 million. Comparing that to the cumulative total cases and deaths from COVID-19 as of January 2021, that's roughly 7% recorded infections in state and just over 3% recorded deaths. Considering percentages alone can be misleading. Some may even consider these numbers small. Both of these issues can be addressed with a visual reference. Take into account the maximum capacity of Yankee Stadium. No more than 46,537 seats are available at once. To put this in perspective, the estimated total of COVID-19 deaths so far in state is within 6% of the maximum capacity of Yankee Stadium. And to see the estimated total cases in New York as of January this year, taking the COVID-19 numbers in state divided by the total number of seats, that's enough infected to date to fill Yankee Stadium 30 times over with New York State's numbers alone. This is why I built my project around visualizing COVID-19 to take the numbers and give them references people can see. To accomplish this, I constructed a demo around the concept of a virtual room to represent the numbers behind COVID-19 in a 3D environment. To finish the project within the set time constraints, I narrowed down the COVID-19 data used to all US states only. Unity proved the most readily accessible coding environment due to the fact I'd never worked with a game engine before. Unity also uses the C# scripting language for its scripts, which shares similarities with Java, a language I'm very familiar with. The first step was to allow Unity to read from and use the COVID-19 data provided by Johns Hopkins on GitHub. In Unity, serialization is used for manipulating data structures and object shapes into a format that Unity can store and use later. Unity did not have a direct implementation to access CSV files, which led me to using JSON or JavaScript object notation with the load JSON method. The data here is well organized, but some columns were missing entries. In order to operate within project constraints, I narrowed down the categories to total confirmed cases and deaths. These are cumulative totals, including the months before them. Using an online tool, I batch converted 10 months of CSV files containing COVID data at once. As we can see, In front is the simplified list of one CSV file converted to JSON format. Everything in Unity, from the objects on display to the camera and the background, are treated as game objects. On their own, game objects do not do anything. Components allow game objects to act independently or on other game objects using Unity's UI or through scripts written in C#. Game objects can also be stored as a blueprint called a prefab to be used or reused at a later point. Creating a basic dropdown is simple, but there were too many fields to manually enter. Therefore, the dropdown entries need to be dynamically generated. This is performed using the datetime class for the first dropdown. The second dropdown uses a data structure referred to in C# as a dictionary, discussed in the full presentation. OnValueChanged controls the dropdown menu by running a method when the index or position of the dropdown selection changes. The method attached to OnValueChange must also accept an integer value, which is set to the position in the dropdown menu, making it easier to update information relevant to the current menu selection. This feature of Unity provides the core functionality behind this project, generating the objects and information on screen and removing them when prompted. On-screen display shows in-depth information according to current selection based off the two dropdown menus. It updates when OnValueChanged is called, and the current fields show date, US state, cumulative confirmed cases, and deaths as of the date displayed, and the ratio of game objects on screen to the COVID-19 numbers. When the position in either dropdown menu changes, the objects on screen are removed and new objects are generated. The generation of new game objects is referred to as instantiation, while removing objects is performed with destroy. The formation of the instantiated game objects is in the shape of a grid. The reason behind using a grid was to dynamically generate different populations efficiently. Using the square root of the total number of cases of COVID, I could determine the length of one side of a square that could serve as the basis for generating a grid. Right after, a list of the grid of game objects is iterated over, coloring objects read at random and ensuring that duplicates do not occur. Unity has trouble rendering hundreds of thousands of objects on screen, so a ratio of game objects to people was needed. I look forward to showing the rest of you the full demo when the video comes out, and thank you. All right.
Thank you, James. I want to, yes.
Thank you.
Applause. I want to give a acknowledgement, as James did, I think, in his opening slide, to his senior project sponsor, Professor Athar Abdulkader, who's here. Every senior project at Purchase is conducted by the student. It's an independent research project under the supervision of a sponsor. And so tonight, we have a couple of those sponsors who've been able to attend, and Professor Abdulkader is one of them. Thank you for being here, which also means that after this is done, the questions about not just James's project, but about the program, we have another professor here who could answer those questions for you. Our next presenter is Darlis Juvino from the psychology department. I'll turn the floor over to you.
Yes, hello everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I'm just going to set up, put on my presentation now. Give me one moment. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Yeah. Great. So again, I'm Darlis Juvino, and for my senior thesis, I conducted a theoretical analysis on the cognitive aging of bilinguals under my sponsor, Dr. Germano. And this research applies not only to bilinguals, it might be a little misconstruing with the name title, but it also involves anyone who is actively aging. Oh, so sorry. So what is cognitive aging? I just want to go over some keywords. So in this study, we focus on cognitive aging, which is directly related to our executive functions by impacting our prefrontal cortex. We look into bilingualism, which is the ability of speaking two languages, and the bilingual advantage, which is the theory that bilinguals have cognitive advantages based on them knowing another language. And so I used an analysis structure based on De Bruin, Treccani, and De La Salle's study, where they took 104 conference abstracts on bilingualism and executive control. And they categorized their results into 4 different categories. Results either were fully supported by the bilingual advantage, mixed results, but meaning prior studies on executive control tests supported the bilingual advantage, while not for any other tests, while a bilingual advantage was not expected. The third containing mixed results as well. However, the results needed to have tests where a bilingual advantage was expected, but not found. And finally, results that completely challenged the bilingual advantage. They then looked at which abstracts were published and unpublished, and they found a significant difference between which was published and unpublished, which implied a possible publication bias. So following colleagues, the Brilliant colleagues, I took 20 published articles between 2010 and 2020 and categorized them based on their results. And as per the table, the articles were skewed towards supporting the bilingual advantage than challenging. In addition, I took 17 unpublished student theses and categorized them as per Brun and colleagues classification. And as per the table, students had less success in replicating the bilingual advantage, and their results skewed towards challenging the bilingual advantage. I completed a chi-square statistical analysis using SPSS to understand if there was significant difference between the categorization of the published articles versus the unpublished student theses. If there wasn't a bias, we would have seen a more evenly distributed count between the 2 samples, as shown in the expected count rows. And after replicating the Brun and colleagues study, I focused on reviewing the possible theories regarding the discrepancy in results that I obtained. I used 4 possible theories to analyze these results, which I go into further into the complete video of my study. I also examined each of these theories and the reasons why it is important for future research in this area to investigate them further. For instance, if the bilingual advantage is more pervasively supported by results that is indeed a psycholinguistic advantage, then the push for learning at least a second language could help increase the quality of life in our older age. However, if it is found that there seems to be a pattern or more support that this is recorded advantage is sociocultural, then learning a second language may not help all that are 65 and older with their quality of life. And so specific societies and cultures would need to pervasively change in order for an advantage to be demonstrated. So in conclusion, this future research and what I go through and looking into these theories could have the answers and essential information to help either improve our quality of life when we're older and understanding the bilingual advantage. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlis.
I'm sorry, I don't have the Zoom control. I can't find my Zoom for some reason. Oh God, I'm so sorry.
No, I think we're okay.
Okay.
So yes, as you can see, for those of you who are new to our programs, the natural and social sciences generally are ways of approaching, thinking about, and analyzing the world around us, both the immediate world of like the COVID-19 epidemic and its implications, as well as the things going on inside of us or in our minds. It's just the branch represented by the talk we just had about cognition and psychology and the languages we learn and speak and what happens when we get older. The next presentation by Maxwell Levitt comes from a branch of the social sciences, political science, that looks at like that context of the lives that we lead, the political, the governmental. So I will now turn the floor over to you, Maxwell.
Hi, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for holding the event. So good afternoon. My name is Max Levitt. I'm a senior political science major at Purchase. My senior project is titled Education as a Right or Privilege, the Question of Federal Policy and Student Access. So public education in the United States has a long history of deeply flawed policies and practices that were greatly exacerbated by the introduction of the No Child Left Behind Act. The policy was advocated for by George W. Bush's administration on just his third day in office. The legislation promised to ensure that all students have a fair, equal, and significant opportunity to obtain a high-quality education. Former Secretary of State Rod Page in 2002 said, "For too long, too many of our students, many of our schools did a good job educating some of our children. And with this new law, we'll make sure that we are providing all of our children with access to a high-quality education." This bill was not passed with malintent, but nonetheless has caused detrimental effects on the state of this country's education. In 2016, the Every Student Succeeds Act was implemented by the Obama administration, and it sought to repair the damage done by No Child Left Behind. This was done through granting substantial discretion to individual states concerning accountability of schools, teachers, and programs. Despite this, children who are most in need of support and assistance often attend schools that have higher staff turnover, more underqualified teachers, less access to appropriate materials and technology, and poorer facilities. Because of the new discretion given to states to provide their own educational policy and implementation, I felt that a closer look should be taken at the state and local levels to assess equitability and achievement, as well as to compare the efficacy of the two policies from opposite sides of the political spectrum. So I've done this through a collection and analysis of the data from the New York State Education Database that was mandated by No Child Left Behind and the Every Student Succeeds Act, respectively. Though both pieces of legislation show vastly different variables based on what was actually being monitored, meaningful comparisons can still be drawn. And supplemented by secondary literature, I have found serious negligence on the part of the federal and New York State governments to provide an equitable education for all students and to uphold the promises that were made by both laws, specifically along racial, ability-based, and socioeconomic lines. Clear inequalities and significant disadvantages continue to persist in the public education system, and this has led me to advocate for certain policies and programs that I believe would be beneficial to both students and staffs. So I'm just going to give a few examples. Giving direct support to low-income families for appropriate materials and technology, as well as designing and implementing strategies to compensate for the lack of access to key foundational resources. The next policy area has to do with improving institutional accountability for racial equity. This can be done by re-examining the curriculum and practices that may be unconsciously promoting systematic racism or excluding historically marginalized voices. California's ethnic studies model curriculum, while still in its early stages, is a bold step in the right direction. By allowing students to see and hear themselves in the curriculum, it's undeniably important. This model, I believe, is one that can be expanded throughout the country and more specifically in New York. The Every Student Succeeds Act certainly showed progress in providing an equitable education for all students, but there is still much work to be done. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Maxwell. And as I did before, I'd also like to give props to Maxwell's sponsor, Professor Sam Galloway from the Political Science Department, who, as I mentioned, is also an alum of Purchase. There's a very small number of such elect people who have come to Purchase for an undergraduate education and then gone somewhere to get their PhD or other advanced degree, and then come back to share their knowledge and worldly experience with subsequent classes at Purchase. So Sam and Darlis are both here as representing kind of the present and the past, as well as the future of Purchase, along with Maxwell and James. And I know that the rest of you out there in the audience do represent various aspects of our past, present, and future. I see people sending shout outs to each other, who I presume you knew each other back in the day at Purchase, which is really lovely to see. And this is the kind of space, it's informal. We're really happy to have you just greet each other and show and kind of display for all of us the kind of connections, enduring connections that you made during your time of purchase and subsequently. We also want to, so at this point, we'd like to invite you to pose questions. You can kind of raise your hand using the raise hand function and ask it, you know, orally, or you could write it in the chat and we can monitor the chat. And like I said, this is kind of open. We can, the speakers who just spoke would be happy to elaborate on the research they did, fill you in on some of the nuances that they weren't able to cover during their presentations. We could also speak to you about the programs they represent or the other majors that we have here at Purchase. And if you just want to share anything, if you're here as an alum or a prospective student, and just want to kind of share your own thoughts or reflections. It doesn't have to be in the form of a question. You're welcome to do that too. Conversation is open. The floor is yours. People are shy maybe, or gathering their thoughts.
There's a hand.
I do see. Benjamin Sherry, I see your hand raised.
Yes. I do have a question. I guess it's sort of a general question, mostly for like biology and environmental science people. Do you think that there are good opportunities for internship and like research projects around the area that Purchase is in?
Mm-hmm. Right. Unfortunately, I don't think I have any faculty or students from those majors. We had invited a biology major here to be here tonight, but she couldn't, at the last minute, she couldn't be here. So we had tried to represent another one of the natural sciences. So I guess I'm panning the room to the extent that I can. I don't see anybody who's better equipped to answer it than me and Amanda, I think. But so I can say that we definitely do have a kind of regional or within the area at Purchase and around Purchase, a number of opportunities for those kinds of internships. The ones that come most immediately to mind are more on the environmental studies side, with various efforts at conservation or like sustainability that are going on. There's a lot of movements on campus right now for sustainability, environmental sustainability. And we have professors both in the environmental studies and in the biology program who are involved in that. We have a sustainable native garden on campus that faculty and students have been involved in. We also have one of our biology professors who raises bees. And I've actually eaten some of the honey that they've gotten from the beehives there, which has also to do with environmental issues because bee populations have been threatened by environmental changes. So those are some applied opportunities that exist right here on campus. We have other students who've gone to local organizations to work, and a couple of students have done summer work in places further afield, like up in Maine, I believe. We have some faculty who do research up in Maine, and some students have been able to get opportunities up in Maine over summer times. Hopefully the opportunities will open up again as we enter a kind of post-COVID era. They've been kind of in abeyance in the past year, which has put a crimp on a lot of our activities. I also wanted to say in that regard that the students who've done their research projects this year, like the students who just presented, especially if they're in fields like I believe like Darlis, you're in your field, you would want to engage with people to do your research. And in the past year, that has not been possible a lot of the time. So students like Darlis, I don't know about James or Maxwell if your research would have been affected in the same way. But a lot of the students we have who do research that requires being in a lab or going out to do field work have really had to kind of make arrangements to get their research done without the opportunities that they would normally have. The students in this year's class have faced extraordinary challenges, which is why it's especially a privilege to see them here tonight And I really want to give a shout out to you and to your colleagues, to your fellow students for persevering this year in the face of the difficulties. And your faculty sponsors have also been really important in helping do that. We've all been forced to work in ways that are not conducive to the fields that we represent and the way we normally do our work. And that is also relevant to the internships. Internship opportunities have been fewer this year. Some people have done virtual internships, but we really hope that that situation will be improving over the next year. I appreciate what my colleagues are putting in the chat, representing some of the programs we have here. So I do appreciate your supplementing whatever I'm able to produce here. If anybody wants to chime in to add to what I was saying, we do have a couple other hands. I see Shimon Wahlberg, your hand is raised.
Yeah, hi. So I've been told by an alumni that I know that an art project of some sort is required for graduation. I was wondering if that applies to all majors, and if so, what does that entail?
You said you've been told that what kind of project?
An art project of some sort is required for graduation.
An art project. And I mean, a senior project is the term we use at Purchase for the kind of capstone research project, which in the arts tends to take, it's not necessarily research, it's a creative project. So in the conservatory programs, students will, if they work in the visual arts, they'll prepare an exhibit of their art. That would be like the equivalent of the presentations you're seeing here tonight, or the research papers that all of the students who presented tonight, their presentations are handing in, like long research papers that will go into a digital archive at our library eventually. The students in the arts programs will produce a film, or choreograph and perform a dance, or a recital of their musical instrument. So those projects are senior projects in the arts. In the liberal arts and sciences, some students are working on artistic projects. And even in the natural and social sciences, even though we're scientists, we do have projects that often have a creative component. And that would be an optional part of a natural and social sciences project. But I work with anthropology. When I'm not director, I teach anthropology. And I've had anthropology students who have produced photographic essays, documentary videos. So those kinds of things have been done both in my home discipline of anthropology, as well as in other disciplines here. It's one of the hallmarks of Purchase is that we're small and interdisciplinary. We have our respective departments, but we don't operate in intellectual silos. There's a lot of encouragement for people to engage in interdisciplinary kind of cross-pollination. So arts projects actually do happen even in the natural and social sciences. The particular form a senior project takes is developed by the student in conjunction, in collaboration with their faculty sponsor. I see, I'm hopefully not mispronouncing people's names. Lisanne Molinet.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, nice to see you.
Good to see you too. So I'm very, very impressed with the presentations tonight. I'm class of 2016, playwriting and screenwriting. And I am in my third year of my PhD studies in Europe, in England. And I have to say, I bridged my time at Purchase with really the STEM fields of being an artist, and it impacted doing, well, now there's a lot of move towards doing a practical PhD. So you're having that academic part, but then having the artistic part of actually a creative project you're applying it to. So my question to the panelist is, I'm curious how Purchase impacted your journey for your thesis projects, because you each have a different medium, but all of us are connected in the fact that we were in a very creative community. And as you were just saying, we cross-pollinate. And I definitely felt that influence in my path, in my journey. And I'm curious to see in your respective fields how that's impacted you in your current projects.
It's wonderful to hear from you. Thank you for joining us. You're in England right now?
No, I'm in New York, back to England in the fall. Yes, University of Exeter.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming here tonight and telling us a bit of your story. Any of the presenters for tonight want to respond?
Well, I guess I can go first. So, purchase is definitely, think wide open, right? It's been definitely that and very pervasively in all of our thoughts. Like, this is something that we need to make sure we're grasping, not just our discipline or what we're studying, but like have an understanding of all kinds of things that tie into it. And to be honest, I think understanding that my last year as a senior at Purchase and doing my theoretical analysis in something that would be considered more developmental has really opened me up to realize what I would like to study. And I've actually recently got it accepted into UConn for the Human Development and Family Sciences program, which is an intersection of anthropology, sociology, psychology. So it's definitely something that I'm actually going to be diving into further because there really is too much that connects everything. So, and I think it definitely was Purchase that helped me realize that and want to go further.
Thanks, Darlis. James or Maxwell, did you have anything you would want to say?
To be honest, this is kind of a personal reason why I declared my computer science major. Well, I came for the computer science. I stayed for the math. At various points in my life, I've noticed that when my own mathematical ability is better, I feel more creative. And it's always got fluent in the face of like the notion, oh, math people are pure logic. And then, the creative types are not really math types. I've always liked the intersection of math and art and creativity. And Purchase was great for that. I honestly wish I took more art classes, but just being able to be in the mix of students was great. Seeing a bunch of different opinions and perspectives. Yeah.
That's lovely to hear. I can confirm that in the year I've been doing my job, that the math and computer science people don't live up or down to the stereotype of the cold thinking mathematician, computer scientist. They're some of the warmest people I know, and creative. So it's wonderful to hear your testimony in that regard. Maxwell, don't want to put you on the spot, but I don't know if you had anything you wanted to say.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know if we were going to continue. Yeah, I think for me, just being on such a diverse and open campus, and meeting so many different kinds of people, it just kind of made me wonder, how everybody got there, and like the important work that they were doing in their own senior projects. It just made me interested in the type of upbringing that they had and the way that, education has affected them personally and me personally. So I think it was just it was a cool opportunity to experience so many different kinds of opinions and points of views that you might not experience elsewhere. Yeah.
Thanks so much. So I see that Ken McHale, I saw that you were kind of raising your hand like this, and I see that you've posted something in the chat about internships eventually coming back. Did you want to just add anything conversationally?
Yes, I just posted the information for environmental science folks and others. I'm a relatively recently retired assistant director for the Metro North Railroad Environmental Department. I'm sure many of you have ridden back and forth to New York on our trains. I'm also a environmental science graduate of Purchase, class of '79. All of the agencies in the MTA, and for that matter, transportation agencies throughout the state and around the country, have environmental departments. Nobody operates without them. For the MTA, a lot of our environmental departments are kind of hidden inside the safety department or system safety departments. But if you go to the chat, I've put the website, the new mta.info/careers. If you go to that site, you can get over to information on internships at the agencies. Speaking only for Metro North, not the other agencies, our internships typically, the students who come to Metro North to work are surprised by the amount of immersion very quickly they get in their respective fields in their internships. When they've compared internships with their friends who have gone to other places, some of the other folks are doing, you know, kind of uninteresting scat work. At Metro North, you become part of the department and you get oriented to railroad operations, railroad administration, and are then brought around to all of the different rail yards and other facilities and get work up to your ears in environmental protection issues. We do everything from protection with at our maintenance yards that would have to do with hazardous and industrial materials, waste materials, management of those wastes from those operations, air pollution control, wetlands, environmental spill cleanups and long-term remediation. Because we didn't start yesterday, this railroad has been, or its successors have been around since kind of the turn of the last century. So there were, when I came there was a gigantic amount of inherited problems in land and groundwater that we had to deal with. The interns, with pretty much without exception in the years I was there, and I was there for 30 years, they have all been very, very impressed with the amount of responsibilities they were handed. It is, as some of them put it, it's no joke when you come to Metro North to work as an intern. So when those internships come back, I would suggest that anybody who's interested in some very, very hands-on, experiential type internships, take a look at Metro North and take a look at the other sister agencies within the MTA. It's a good deal. There are all other departments there, by the way, too. There's marketing, there's engineering, there's communication and electronics. So other sciences and other social sciences fit in there as well.
This is fascinating. Between what you're saying and then what's going on in the chat, I'm seeing this whole transport network of Purchase alums. That's pretty fascinating. And I want to say just what you said before about there being even social sciences. As an anthropologist, transportation infrastructure is part of what I have been studying. Insofar as it's not just a matter of the engineering of the transportation infrastructure, but the social lives that infrastructure allows us to achieve. And it's interesting to think about these things now because it's a politically debated topic. What constitutes infrastructure? What's the federal government going to pay for? So a question like a railroad, for example, is something that many departments in the natural and social sciences would have impact on, and not only. To think about how the arts or communication, the media are going to be affecting these things, because surely there are media departments at Metro North as well, is to think about like the very myriad ways that a purchase education can be brought to bear for something as seemingly straightforward as a railroad. It's always more complex than that. I just want to put in the chat the link to our Office of Career Development, because they also kind of give advice to students and help them organize their internships that will allow them to earn credit in pursuit of their purchased college degree, while also gaining that real world experience. Thank you, Ken, for sharing all that, and for others of you who've commented in the chat. Benjamin Sherry, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that that was really helpful because, you know, it's nice to know that there are opportunities for research projects and internships in the area, you know, despite the fact that the area is not particularly known for like field research and field research projects, you know, regarding like biology and environmental science. But, you know, it's interesting to hear about how there are a lot of companies, even in like transportation, that have departments that pertain to those kinds of topics that, you know, have internship opportunities and such. That's very helpful to hear about.
Yeah, we have classes that take students into the field, environmental studies classes that take students into the field. We have a marine ecology class that goes to one of the nearby ocean fronts. We don't think of purchases as on the ocean, but it's not that far. And doing other kinds of work along river basins, swamplands in Westchester. It's not only about malls and housing developments in Westchester. There's a lot of the natural world betwixt and between. So yeah, thank you for all that feedback. Are there any other questions or comments? Some of the comments from alums have been really delightful. I've been at Purchase for 20 years, and I'm always learning more about what is going on this campus and what our graduates have done in the world and continue to do. Lilium Caldron-Waymyers, hi.
Hi, hello. Hello, everyone. I graduated in 1998 as a drama studies major. I want to congratulate all the panelists on their experience and their graduation and their good job. I have two questions. One question is for Darlis. You said at the age of 65, people should not be learning languages, but at what age should you start?
So just to clarify, it's future research that needs to be done in order for us to know if bilingualism truly has an advantage in, you know, helping prevent such dementia, cognitive impairments such as dementia that are age-related. So we don't have right now the information regarding if, you know, learning a second language would be helpful for someone who's going to be, you know, like planning on living up to 65 and older, so that they can maintain their cognitive functioning. So it's really difficult to say right now, but hopefully, you know, with my thesis, and if I potentially could get published, you know, to be able to help the research in that area to kind of just direction it and say, hey, these are kind of the areas that you need to look into so that we could get these answers to these questions.
So I don't think it was that you shouldn't learn the language, right? It's just don't,
right.
There's no guarantee that it'll help you stave off the ravages of age, but it could be a wonderful thing to do if you're 65, 75, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. So at what age should you start learning the language?
So it's really difficult to say. So there are things such as early bilingualism, which is those that learn a second language before the age of 7, which is normally due to like home language, or them, you know, interacting with someone who speaks a second language. And then there's late bilingualism. So it's basically everyone else who's learned a second language after the age of 7. And it you know, we can't really say as of right now, you know, the support in the research in this topic basically says that bilingualism does have this advantage, that there's so many cognitive advantages for people that speak 2 languages. However, if you watch my presentation, the full presentation, I go into a little further detail about how before this, you know, we thought contrary, you know, so we kind of need to really devil in and go into other theories to understand this, you know, what is the bilingual advantage and how can this be used? So I don't necessarily have a specific answer for you, but if that's something that you want to do and you want to do for your kids, it's definitely a great thing. Knowing Spanish is very helpful in the, you know, work environment.
I speak Spanish, so yeah.
Yeah.
My second question is for all the panelists. When you do research, before COVID, when people do research, you are able to like go out and talk to people, go to the library and look information. How was it for all of you right now, since COVID is going on and everything, the pandemic?
Do you guys mind if I could just like go in real quick first?
Go ahead.
And I know that John Ramberg had asked a similar question in the chat I wanted to answer. So for me and the people that I know that have graduated with me, a lot of people wanted to do physical experiments, and they were crushed when they couldn't translate that experiment online. It just was like not feasible for them to do it. Me personally, I was already planning and preparing to do a theoretical analysis, so I wasn't too crushed. You know, I would say the impacts were more, you know, having that one-on-one with your sponsor and that time, and also working with your lab mates. It's just something that really is like a helpful thing. But I know in my department, like my program, a lot of students were extremely crushed, and they had to, you know, at the last minute kind of figure out, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this kind of thing? But, you know, a lot of them are very happy with how the end results came out. So, I mean, regardless, everybody adapts, right? So we adapted.
Yeah, when it comes to my research, I mean, in the Math CS department, I've been programming for the past 4 years. So it hasn't been really an obstacle so much as just the being at home, you know, just being at home and being self-motivated, which every student was dealing with. But when it comes to the whole using Zoom, working from home, I mean, I thought I wouldn't be doing anything remotely related to working from home for another several years. And I was honestly hoping that I'd get into a work from home job as soon as possible. But now that I've been in it, I'm kind of like, you know what, I'm okay with going to an office for a couple years, maybe longer, and, you know, kind of breaking things up a little bit. You know, I'm ready for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, the part about getting yourself motivated to do actual work now, just not being able to see people, talk to your sponsor all the time, you know, makes it a little bit more difficult, and especially not being able to go to the library all the time to pick out books, you know, do some reading. But there are still a whole bunch of really good resources, you know, from the library and the librarians that you can email back and forth with, and they'll help you with, you know, basically anything you need for your senior project. So you know, it's difficult, but the resources are still there for you to, you know, for you to get everything done.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yes, and Lisanne Molinet confirms this has affected graduate studies as well, not just undergraduate studies here at Purchase. I know that in anthropology, the field work that students traditionally do has been pretty much entirely virtual ethnography this year, like ethnography in virtual space. So just like the other kinds of use of remote contact, that's how a lot of the research has had to happen. Any other questions? We're supposed to go till 7. I'm not in a rush to get off screen, but I just want to make, if there's any any last questions about anything or any last comments, we'd love to hear from you.
I'll say something. This is Sue Ellen Peluso. I graduated in 1977. So Ken and John Ramberg were in the building. There were about 10 of us, I think. I know that at one point we felt that there were more natural science faculty than there were seniors. I think that the student faculty ratio was quite excellent. A little overbearing at times. I am speaking to the students in particular and to those who have been admitted and are thinking about purchase. We also took a junior field exam, which was really fairly unnerving at the end of the junior year. But I, in terms of career and the importance of research project and a thesis, and actually I was an author. I had the incredible fortune of working with Lee Ehrman, and she had such varied suggestions as, would you like to go to med school in Australia? How about analyzing chromosomes? What do you think of working? And the analyzing chromosomes is what stuck. You know, you could stay here and do a little more research. I mean, she had more ideas than I, as a senior, fairly exhausted and happy, you know, could really process. So not only does this senior year, it provides a familiarity beyond the experience itself. I think that I'm hoping that you're still feeling that. There's a culture to it beyond what Ken has brought forward. And I actually ended up spending an awful lot of time in basic science research and then backing into being in the Corporate and Foundation Relations Office in UCLA when I was about 30, and getting a master's in maternal and child health that I started at NYU and then finished out at UCLA, and then backed even further into advancement in fundraising. So I've been fundraising in life and life sciences and medicine, and then across medicine for the last 25 years. And I continue to be appreciated by the faculty I meet for the fact that I got a microbiology degree and managed to pass organic chemistry. I also minored in dance at the time I purchased, so it was really quite a rich experience. And I'm so delighted to hear that it's still stacking up for y'all. I really am. I think we think that we had, a very specific and precious time, and that it can't be repeated. And it's really heartwarming to know that it can. So just wanted to plug that and say congratulations for those theses and the fact that you're now free to go forward into the world.
That is a wonderful testimony. Lee Ehrman only retired last year.
Yes, I know.
In biology, and I've spoken with her by phone a few times in the last year. So I know what a formidable presence she was in biology for many decades. So it's wonderful to have your recollections.
I mean, there's really no one like Lee. When I last saw her last year, she asked about my daughter, who is 27, and whether or not she was single, because she has a single grandson.
Yeah, don't get the wrong idea. Matchmaking services do not come with the education. That's as part of the standard package.
You never know.
You never know, though. You never know.
It's all in, right?
I wanted to chime in there a second.
Hi,
I'm John Ramberg. I'm the only physics major to have graduated from Purchase in 1976. And
we don't have a physics major anymore.
I know. Well, we didn't when I joined either. We created it. And so what I wanted to just mention, there were a couple of things that came up. I just want to give you some input for some, maybe it's not the seniors, but maybe for some of the other folks who may be considering what to do. I was able to use the short term that we used to have, the fall, we had a long term and a short term. I took a short term study at the IBM Yorktown laboratories. And I've been trying to, I'm a member of the Purchase board now, and I've been trying to get some contacts established with IBM for folks who are interested in not only in computer science, they're doing a lot of other things there too. I was actually working on physics when I was there. They were studying material properties and things like that. But that's a nearby research institution, par excellence. And I haven't seen any purchase connection to that in looking over some of our alumni reports and stuff like that. And I thought I'd mention that to folks who are considering doing something along those lines. There are all internships there, but you can also, like, we never let that stop us. There wasn't an internship there when I started. We just made one up. And so I was going to suggest that if you're interested in the tech area and you want to stay in the purchase area code, you might want to consider something like that, because that was very valuable for me. It opened me up to a lot of corporate science and research, and that was really, really very cool. And also want to echo what Sue Ellen said about the keep your mind interdisciplinary. It's so much more valuable than knowing just one thing. It's so good to be able to, like, I found in my professional life, to have people working with you who can see things from all kinds of different perspectives. You know, you can't always apply them, but sometimes they give you a sensitivity or a sensibility that is very, very valuable to the problem that you're trying to solve. So I just wanted to give a little shout out for interdisciplinary studies, or at least systems thinking, to keep your systems hat on. Don't just focus in on your specialty, although that's important. I'm not saying that that's not important, but just wanted to give that little bit of you know, what lesson learned I've seen. So,
well, and you know, John, I think that I've always said, P.S. if I hadn't had Fiction Between the Wars and some social sciences, I never would have gotten through organic chemistry. So you know, again, I think the balance, and not even, I didn't know to balance, but just the potpourri of opportunities to kind of look at the interdisciplinary power of purchase is something that has stuck with me forever.
Yep, I agree. Well, anyway, good luck to all you guys,
yes,
who presented and who are going to present. It's really a pleasure to see everybody just doing what we like to do, which is to pull things together from all kinds of directions. So think wide open.
Yes, thank you. That was lovely. And we do have, it's interesting you said you concocted a physics major even when there wasn't one. It's not the most common thing, but we do have students who create their own majors under it's called something like Bachelor of Arts of Liberal Arts or something like that. And if you have the faculty sponsors that you're working with who are willing to support it and will work with you on it, students have created kind of innovative majors, interdisciplinary majors that build on the disciplinary training from a few different things, but bring it together in their own unique way. So again, and I think that the faculty who come to purchase are both inclined to think in these kind of open-minded interdisciplinary ways, and also they won't get the job if during their interview they don't show that they're really open to it. So if you were like me, an anthropologist who only wanted to do anthropology, you probably wouldn't get past the interview stage. So it really is a place that, by inclination and by the cultural norms of the place, it kind of encourage that kind of open-minded, open cross-pollinating thinking. Benjamin, I see you have a question again?
Well, yeah, no, actually, I just wanted to make a comment that's actually kind of the reason I chose Purchase, is because, like they, Purchase has the BSVA program as well, where you can, do visual arts, but have a concentration in a humanities and science major. And I'm someone that I'm a visual arts person, but I'm also very passionate about environmental science. And I really wanted to be able to also pursue environmental science without necessarily having to do a traditional double major. I wanted to be able to have, kind of an intersection in the study of those two fields. And, I was really happy that Purchase actually had something that was literally made for that. Like not many other colleges have a program like that. So, that's probably the main reason I chose Purchase.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
So, any other questions or reflections? might be getting on dinner time for some people.
I had a question.
Yeah.
When I was attending, I was a 77 graduate, and I found out about Purchase because I was going to an alternative college in New Hampshire called Franconia. And at the time, Franconia used to have visiting performances from the fine arts departments at Purchase. They'd come up and do a quartet, you know, a classical quartet performance in our auditorium in New Hampshire. As a result, when I left New Hampshire, I came after working about a year and a half back to Purchase. But at the time, Purchase was seen as a fine arts college. It competed with Juilliard, and the sciences, social or natural, weren't really considered particularly dominant or with any great, you know, credits. What is the nature of the college today? Is it seen as capable in all of those sciences, or is it still predominantly seen as a fine arts university?
Well, as the director of the School of Natural and Social Sciences, I can only say that the sciences are alive and well at Purchase. And I'm not just saying that just because I'm paid to say that. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have taken the job 20 years ago, and I wouldn't have stayed if that weren't true. It is true. Our conservatory programs, our BFA programs are world class, and they do compete with the illustrious institutions that you mentioned. And our programs in the sciences and the humanities are small. Right? We're a small college. So in terms of the numbers, in terms of the kind of like mega $1 million grants that you might get at a large Research One university, we don't measure up because we don't have the facilities for those kinds of things. But that's not the ballpark that we're playing in. But the scientists who work here, and by that I mean the natural and social scientists, as well as our colleagues in the humanistic disciplines, are all, you know, they're all trained at these top class institutions. They all bring that training to bear in the classes that we have here. And the student faculty ratios are not as small as they were back in the 70s. I think when I hear about the experience that many of you alums had in the 70s, it sounds like a golden era that's kind of unimaginable to me. But compared to a lot of other state schools that you might consider, our student faculty ratios are pretty phenomenal. And so the kind of individual attention that you're going to get in your classes as a senior projects researcher are pretty unparalleled. You'd be very, I think, hard pressed to find it at another kind of public school.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I got
And Peter, I'm so glad you spoke up. Peter, I thought of you as a music person, but not as a science person. I couldn't place you.
Well, interesting. But I got, my major was in sociology, and I got an honors in my senior project. But I also was a musician and played. I've got great memories of playing for the theater department in. Yeah. We had a student who became a pretty famous actor in '77. I don't know if you remember. He's a tall guy. But anyhow, I have great memories of playing for the theater department.
Yeah, I remember that.
Ah, cool.
But I couldn't quite place you in the natural sciences. Of course, again, you know, it's tiny, but you know, we had a lot going on, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Talk about, we did some demonstrations back then.
Did.
Well, let me just quickly hop in only to say, you know, I graduated in 2006 before going on to do my PhD at the University of Chicago, which I finished last year to come back to teach here at Purchase. And I just want to assure all of our esteemed alumni that in 2006, Purch was still weird. And in 2021, Purchase is still weird. And it's just been really lovely to hear some of these reminiscences from some of our alum you know, hearing some of this cultural history of the institution is really lovely. And I'm sure, you know, for my student Max, it must be wild for him too, to hear, you know, back in '77, you know, it's like, well, we didn't have the department, so we just made one, you know, and how that spirit of, well, let's just do it, you know, what's stopping us, still pervades today, you know, you know, this was my first year teaching under COVID. It was very bizarre, but the spirit of purchase was alive and well, even in this weird remote experiment that we're all doing of remote education. And so I just want to let you know that that from my experience, at least, that the institution is still in quite good hands with these young ones. They're keeping the flame alive.
Oh, good, and I'm so glad you came back.
Yeah, that's great.
Me too. Amanda, did Rudi take off?
Yeah, unfortunately, he had just called me. He wants to extend his apologies. His Wi-Fi actually kicked him off. He has to reboot his Wi-Fi. So he's going to try to get back on. But if no one else has any questions or comments, you know, we can always wrap it up for tonight. Does anyone else want to chime in?
Well, I just wanted to kind of add to Peter's question about like the view of purchase. I've lived in White Plains all my life, and I went to Purchase for stepping off in school of dance when they used to like rent out at Purchase. And I actually learned how to drive my car in the Purchase parking lot.
Yeah.
So, you know, Purchase has always been in my life.
So
I never, you know, I thought I'd go to Purchase one day, but I thought more in the dance capacity because, you know, when you're younger, you have different thoughts, right? Life takes you a different way, and I knew I wanted to do psychology. I wasn't sure if Purchase had that, you know, because the idea is that it's more arts related. I was so pleasantly surprised to find, you know, the sciences, and then to come to find out how, you know, well it's seen amongst other colleges. You know, graduating from Purchase is a big thing among other like schools and getting into graduate school. I mean, I've kind of understood that going into interviews and things like that, because a lot of other schools don't have a senior thesis, you know, right. And so a lot of the attention and the small class size during like your junior and senior year, it really does help, you know, produce, I guess, you know, more valuable kind of students in the light of, you know, if you're propelling them to go to graduate school. And, you know, I think Purchase has been doing a really wonderful job in doing that. And I'm so happy to hear these stories from before Purchase. It's kind of like just to see that the story just continues, you know, because honestly, I was just writing a letter to the department because I'm going to miss them. It was an amazing experience. And I'm glad to know that I'll be remembering this for a long time.
Great to hear.
Thank you, Darlis. That was so nice to hear, and so funny about you learning to drive in the Purchase parking lot. That's awesome. Okay, so I think we need to wrap up for tonight. I believe there's another next segment of an event going on for the alumni. So I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. It was so nice to hear, you know, a little bit of the past, present, and future, right? So thank you all so much. We really appreciate it, and we hope to hear from you guys, and we hope to see you at the symposium. I did put a link in the chat to our event webpage where you will find the Zoom link where you can join. You know, it's open to the public, it's open to our alumni, of course, so feel free to join us there and watch these presentations in their totality. So thank you again. And yeah, feel free to reach out to our office if you ever want to touch base. I work in the School of Natural and Social Sciences. My name is Amanda Zalo. And again, Rudi apologizes for ending so abruptly, but he is the director of the School of Natural and Social Sciences, and you can find our contact information on our webpage. So thank you and have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, Amanda.
much.
Congratulations to all the panelists tonight. Good job.
Congratulations. Congrats. Good luck.
Congrats.
Good job.